Greetings, friends. Reformed Stoic here, back again with another video. Let's go for a little walk. And by that I mean let's pace around between my living room and my kitchen and the little hallway to my bathroom. So this is a concept that I've brushed upon in a few different videos and live streams. That of the Cave of Wonders. For those of you who don't know, that's from the movie Aladdin. If for some reason you haven't seen the Disney classic Aladdin, I definitely think you should check it out. It's probably one of my favorite Disney movies. Well, I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite Disney movies. I don't know why I said it like that. I think The Lion King might be my top. But as far as for like a metaphor for wisdom, or a metaphor that contains wisdom, the Cave of Wonders, the concept of you must touch nothing but the lamp. And the title of this video is The World is a Cave of Wonders. So that's how you get the lamp to get to the genie in Aladdin, is you go through the Cave of Wonders and it's all surrounded by jewels and gold and treasure, and if you touch any of it, the cave collapses all around you, and then you're trapped there. But as long as you don't touch any of it, and you get the lamp, then that's how you get the lamp. And then you can escape. So why is the world a cave of wonders? Well, it reminds me of a story that my grandfather's dad told him. My grandpa told me this one time. One time he took me to the pool. My grandpa on my mom's side was really a character. Both of my grandfathers were characters, but my mom's side, not to put my dad's family down, you know, they were smart too. They're both smart, but I would say more stereotypically, intellectually, my mother's family is more like intellectual. My grandpapa, grandmama, grandpapa, that's what I called my grandparents on my mother's side. They had a huge house. They built an addition onto it so that their grandparents could live with them until they passed. Big library, you know, he's got a study. He was always kind of this like intellectual of the Catholic Church. His brother, my great uncle, was a Catholic priest. Anyway, just a little bit of background on him. There's all kinds of stories. Like one time he pulled up Sports Illustrated magazine and pointed at the cover of it and was like, "What if I told you that this was God?" It was like some black basketball player. So I don't know if that really paints a picture of what kind of a person my grandfather was, but he's very eccentric. Like, I'm just going to have to leave it at that. He told me a story about his father who didn't talk to him very much, and he pulled him aside and he was all flustered and just like, "Son, let me tell you something. Look, son, let me give you a word of advice. Just don't." And that's basically all he ever told him. All my grandfather's dad ever told him is just don't. And the funny thing is I feel like that's really good advice. And every time I kind of go down this line of thinking, I have to recommend a video from Sam Hyde. It was one of those early, what was that series he had? Was it Hyde Wars? Is that what he called it? It was one of the videos in his car. I think it's two separate videos. One where he tells you to cut off your toxic friends. That's a classic video. And then there's another one where he talks about like not trying to draw too much attention to yourself in college. He's like, don't raise your hand and say something that makes everybody like hate you, you know? You're like, "Oh, I know. And then you tell some story in class all flamboyantly, and you kind of come off like you don't have self-awareness. And it instantly makes people not like you. And especially in a college setting, I think there's a little bit, for whatever reason, there's more of a forgiving atmosphere in high school. Like, you can kind of be a cringy class clown who, you know, sometimes people think you're funny, sometimes they don't, but they don't hold it against you forever. In college, it's a really big deal to like talk too much in class. That is not gonna amount to being a good time for you. But anyway, kind of just like a shotgun ramble here, trying to tie it together and get to the point. The world is like a cave of wonders because what my great-grandfather said to my grandfather, just don't. When you just don't, I feel like the secret way of being, you know, life's kind of like World of Warcraft. There's more than one way to get to the end goal. You know, do you want to be a mage, or do you want to be a knight, or an orc, or an ogre, you know, whatever. It's like some LARPy choose your character scenario. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. But I'm always kind of talking about this strong, silent type character that I pretty much failed to be. Okay, I'm living in like LMAO, I picked up a piece of gold in the Cave of Wonders, and now I'm trapped there. Now, in Aladdin, he gets out of the Cave of Wonders. So, I definitely think that's like a way that a lot of men's lives go, is like, you failed the test of the Cave of Wonders, and then you're stuck there, and then you have to escape, which is like fixing your wreck of a life. But that's why I'm always trying to say my videos are directed to like a younger audience. I mean, they're directed to everybody, but I definitely like the idea of people who haven't blew it yet seeing my videos, because I definitely think I could teach people how to not blow it. And that's what this is, even though I haven't even really got to the point yet. It's just a very simple point. It's just that I think how your life ends up being like the bad parts of mine is you try too hard. You say too much. You try too much. You think that you have to put on an act to impress people or get people to like you. It was crazy. My roommate in Boston, he had a life coach, and none of my other roommates liked this guy. He was like an older guy, and he just kind of had this like shady way about him, and he was kind of trying to like one up everybody in the house when he was around. And, you know, life coaches a lot of times can seem kind of scammy in nature. You know, they're acting like they got it all figured out, and they're taking money from you. And anyway, I popped in my roommate's room when he was hanging out with his life coach, and his life coach kind of like hit me with that glare, like he's trying to figure me out, like he's trying to figure out something smart to say, or like he's trying to figure out how to get under my skin or whatever. And I kind of just said something funny. I don't remember what it was, but I kind of just like said something to make light of the situation and kind of pulled a Chandler. And so he hit me with the analysis. It's like, oh, I get it. You're like the puppet of your family, or you're like the, what did he call it? You're like the jester of your family. You're the actor of you're the guy who has to make everything okay. And it's annoying because he just hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's kind of like if you've seen Friends, the Chandler Bing who has to make jokes all the time, and he had a super dysfunctional childhood, and he has to kind of like use humor as a defense mechanism, fill up the silences with cheesy jokes. I just said something like goofy to try to like make light of the situation. He's like, oh, I get it. You're like the character who puts on in his family, you know, like you got like a maybe a drunk dad or something, and you have to like make everything okay. You have to tie everything together. You have to make it look like everything's okay. And I was just like, okay, whatever, man. But he basically hit the nail on the head. And I think it's pretty common, you know. I think that Chandler archetype, or whatever he called it, this is freaking forever. I can't remember what he called it, the puppet or the jester or something. But you try to use humor to make everything okay. It's a way of kind of like making yourself seem non-threatening. It can come from like being dominated a lot in life. Like if you grew up and you were small and you got picked on and like there wasn't anything you could do about it at the time, you had to kind of like put on this goofy persona to belittle yourself to let everybody know that you're not a threat. And that's what people said about the soy boy face too. You know, like I was in these threads on 4chan forever ago when the soy boy was kind of new on the block, and people were kind of analyzing the psychology of the soy face. Like that's what all these guys do right before they take a picture. And the reason they do that is because they don't want people to think they're trying to look good in the picture. You know, like a Chad will put on some sort of like I don't even know. Like let me try it. Let me try to look good for a picture. Something like that, you know? Somebody who has a higher level of self-confidence and self-worth, they will try to look good in a picture, you know? But a soy boy is basically doing the same thing that I already described. Like, they're making themselves small. They're projecting to everyone, like predators, like they've been in situations where they've been out-competed, and they're letting everybody know that they're not a threat. So that's the psychology of the soy face, but this is only like one lane of trying too hard, but this probably encapsulates at least 60 or 70%. Like 65% of why you might be trying too hard is because you got out-competed, or you had a dysfunctional childhood, or all these different things. So you feel like you have to do something. Okay, like, back to the house drama. I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking about my childhood, but basically, I guess the idea is that, like, when domestic violence was happening in your house, or your dad was being drunk and aggressive, or your older brother, who's a screw-up, was, like, trying to beat up the dad or something. When something crazy was going down in your house, when you were a kid, you couldn't just not do anything, you know? People look at you as like, well, don't just stand there, do something, you know? You have to make things okay. And then if you're getting bullied or preyed upon, maybe preyed upon by family members or fake friends or whatever, then you have to make things okay by belittling yourself and making yourself small. And you can kind of like combine those two things. You know, this really... Obviously, these videos aren't scripted. I kind of just go off of the top. But that's why I say this is about like 65% of it. Because there's other reasons that you can try too hard. But the more I think about it, it's just like, yeah, if you're the guy who tries too hard, the bottom line is you don't think you're enough. And you're worried that you're boring. That's like one of the things you're worried about, but it's this really deep, like, animal instinct. You're the guy who basically you felt like you needed to project that you're something, so you put on an act, you put on a character, you say things, and then you might think, okay, well, if I don't do this, then maybe I will be boring. That's where the lifting comes in. That's where the training comes in. It's boring if you're a beta who's too afraid to speak. And that's just this weird body language, like how you carry yourself. There really is a difference. There's a difference between an uptight beta who just all his muscles look tight and he's looking down and he just looks like he doesn't want to be there, or he's afraid to be there, or he's desperate to be there, and he doesn't say anything. And I've been in that situation too, where like you're at a bar and someone is like, wow, you know, Shields never says anything, you know, where you're too quiet. But that's where the training comes in. That's where you just freaking lift and work out and try to be a beast and be confident in yourself. And, you know, you do want to say things. But this is where the Cave of Wonders comes in, okay? All the try-hard crap is all like the treasure in the cave. That if you touch it, you're going to blow it. All your, like, crappy jokes and you're trying to figure out how to relate to people and trying to figure out how to, like, say something, that's touching the freaking gold in the Cave of Wonders and blowing it. The lamp is the things that just you're meant to say, that just naturally come to you. And a lot of what it is, and this kind of relates to what Sam Hyde said in his video, say like one clever thing and leave it at that. Okay, the try hard is like constantly trying to figure out how to make people laugh. He's constantly trying to figure out how to just be the center of attention. And it reeks of insecurity, and it's annoying, and it's beta, and it's a combination of like, it basically just, it ends up making you a jester. It's like jester maxing. This video might as well be titled Jester Maxing. You know what? The whole like, the world is a cave of wonders. I think I'm just gonna call this video like Jester Maxing. But I use the cave of wonders thing to explain it. But yeah, this is the video on Jester Maxing. This is exactly what all of this stuff is. You are simultaneously trying to make yourself small and unthreatening, but it's on such a deep unconscious level that you don't realize that's why you're doing it. You think that you're just trying to be funny or that you're trying to like be cool, but that's the problem, is you're trying, you know, and that's when you get a lot of this face like, oh, he's talking again, or he's saying things again, and then you wonder like, why does everybody hate me? It just kind of seems like people hate me. It just kind of seems like I can't do anything right. It's because stop doing. Stop reaching into the piles of gold in the cave of wonders, man. The lamp is your one witty comment. And it's just like, you know, all of our minds work differently. We all have different stuff floating around in your head. The one comment that's just perfect, you know, there's like silence in the crowd, and you notice something, and it's right on the tip of your tongue, and it doesn't take a long time to explain. It's just like, oh, you know, that's like a vacuum cleaner. I don't know, I'm looking at a vacuum cleaner right now. I can't think of an example, but it's like, oh, that's like a vacuum cleaner. Ha 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 ha. And then everybody laughs, and you didn't have to think about it, and you didn't have to talk over people to say it. And then, you know, when you made people laugh, it's like, okay, cool. And then just kind of lean into the background. Be that guy who just leans into the background. And then when you're thinking, well, how am I going to make people like me? Well, that's where you just be cool. You know, that's where your training comes in. That's where the working out comes in. That's where you just have to believe that, like, you're the shit. That's where your confidence comes in, you know? So when you're trying to make people like you, that's when you blow it. And at the same time, it goes beyond just like people liking you and fitting in. I mean, your opportunities in life and succeeding, you know? I feel like it's this method of just opportunities kind of present themselves to you, and then you just take them. And so much of screwing up your life is like trying to do things and making stupid decisions. I've said it so many times on my live stream and in other videos, is like, if I just like went back in time and said nothing every time I did something stupid, like every single situation, even if it's like a really complex situation, you know, go back in time to when I did something stupid and then just like stand there and freeze. And it's like, Jake, what are you doing? You can't just stand still for like a week straight, bro. Like, what's happening right now? That would fix my life. If I just literally froze and did nothing throughout all these different periods of my life, dude. If that was a superpower, I just go back in time and just do nothing instead of what I did. Man, oh man, would that make a huge difference. So, and then, you know, that's kind of where I think in the Bible, turning the other cheek, people see it as beta. It's like, well, yeah, you think you have to try, you think you have to do something, but sometimes it's what you don't do that really makes the difference. So, yeah, you know, I think I've said the bulk of it. Somehow this video ended up being 20 minutes. Like, it's not really that deep. I think the meat of the video was probably explaining the psychology behind the Jester maxer. It comes from being wounded. It comes from having a dysfunctional childhood. It comes from having bad experiences with people. And what happens is this is kind of your earliest incarnation of the black pill. You end up telling yourself that other people don't have to try. No, dude, nobody has to try. Like, you don't have to try either. And by trying, by deciding, okay, that guy's Chad and he doesn't have to try, and I do have to try, you have created the self-fulfilling prophecy that destroys you, that makes you lower value. That's like, okay, that guy's the goofy Jester maxer who tries to make everybody laugh and tries too hard, and that's the cool, mysterious bad boy who just kind of shows up and, you know, he just always says the right thing. It's not like machine gun firing things to say. It's just saying the right thing. And there's probably going to be a huge market. There is a huge market right now for like autistic advice, because basically all these guys are autistic today, and those are the ones. I don't know what the percentage is of the guys who are struggling with women that are autistic, but it's a lot of them, bro. I think probably the first piece of advice I would give those guys is your canvas, your blank slate, the freaking like green flat plane of Legos that you build your Lego structure on top of is saying nothing, is doing nothing. And then probably trying to like put all your effort into your body language, because the autism is going to make you like look down and fidget and be weird, you know. Dress the right way, work out, do all the inner work, and then just, you know, one thing at a time. Like, take the conversation slow. When it's time to tell a story, keep it short, to the point. Don't think that you have to entertain people or you have to be interesting. And you know what? If people think you're boring, then that's probably better than where you're at right now. Like, okay, I'm boring. That's my new starting point. It's better to be boring than it is to be a spurg. It's better to be boring than it is to be weird. It's better to be boring than it is to be unhinged, a Jester maxer. Like, start by being boring, because you've probably had some moments in your life where you saw guys who are out competing you and you thought, that guy's boring. He's a jock. He's a boring jock. It's like, well, dude, work out and be boring. And then over time, when you start there, it's like learning a new skill. It's like going to college or learning a skill. You will learn how to be a little bit less boring. And it will go a long way. So basically, like my great-grandfather's advice to my grandfather, just don't. Like Sam Hyde's advice, keep it short. Don't raise your hand in college. Oh my gosh, I have this from experience, guys. I was trying to be Mr. Actually, you know, I was a philosophy major at UNLV, and I wanted people to think I was smart. So I'd raise my hand and say stuff and usually there's like a quota, there's like an amount of times you have to raise your hand. Just figure it out. Figure out how many times you have to raise your hand, do the exact bare minimum, and keep it boring, baby. Keep it nice and boring. Everything boring. When your mind is like, oh man, am I gonna drop this? Did you know that Pythagoras was the leader of a cult called the Mathematicoi, and actually, like, he inspired Plato? Like, dude, don't do it. Everything boring all the time. Just freaking say the homework stuff. Just stick to the discussion. Don't try to be interesting. And then when you get to know somebody and when you're on a date, okay, like, wait till you've already freaking got the girl into bed. Like, when you're smoking a cigarette in bed with this chick that you freaking got with from school, then you can be like, hey baby, did you know that Pythagoras led a cult called the Mathematicoi. It's like, yeah, that's my book about the Byzantine Empire. Then you can let it out, okay? Just be boring, seriously. And the parts of your psychology you're going to need to work on are the parts that are like afraid of being boring, and it's really not that bad. I swear, like, and nobody's saying this. In fact, a lot of this dude bro like dating, how to get the PUA stuff is trying to teach you to be this like try hard bad boy. Dude, just go to the gym, like look good, and then, you know, when people are like, oh, I already went to gym, because I've been a gym cell before. I've been there, and it's like, dude, like you don't have the right body language. I think a big thing I needed to work on is body language, and I needed to actually be social. That's my biggest problem, is I didn't do anything social. I didn't go to any social events at all at UNLV. I fully relied on cold approach, which is cancer. And then I like more plates, more dates advice, that if a girl shoots you down from a cold approach, just be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually just kind of new here. And if you wanted to just like be friends, I'd be down to be friends. And then maybe they'll invite you to something, and then maybe you can meet her friends. That's a great strategy. So watch More Plates, More Dates video on how to meet girls in college. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Maybe I'll try to hunt down all these videos and put them in the description. But there's that video. Then Sam Hyde talking about how like less is more and don't talk too much. And anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. I managed to ramble on about this, but yeah, I'm definitely going to make the title about Jester maxing. That's going to be a way better clickbait title. But ultimately, when it comes to the Cave of Wonders, you see all these shiny things that you'd want to say or do. This ended up really just being about, like, not Jester maxing, but in terms of that, the lamp is the one thing that you add to the conversation, and then you just leave it. And then, you know, the next time the lamp pops up, you just keep going for the path of least resistance. You don't get bogged down by every little thing, you know, like when you can't wait to talk, like you want to talk over people, or you get this idea in your head. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to say this funny thing. I can't wait for a moment of silence so I can say like this thing. Just don't. Learn how to be okay with being boring. You know, it's like fishing, and when you don't catch a fish, you're just boring. It's like, oh, I didn't catch any fish today, but I still love fishing. Like, your worst moments is you're just kind of bland. You're just kind of boring, but don't look like a beta. Who cares if you're boring? Yeah, I'm boring. What are you going to do about it? I can bench 400 pounds. Not really. But, you know, be in shape, dress nice, be cool. Watch some, like, high school movies again. And then, like, look at the cool guy who, like, says the least in the movie, you know? He's just strutting his stuff. He's got his little jeans and his black t-shirt that fits nice, and he's just kind of there, you know? He's got gel in his hair, and he's posturing, you know, like some Night at the Roxbury. I mean, that's taken a little bit too far, but you don't need to say jack squat. Fishing, you know, you're boring when you don't catch anything, and when you catch something, you said a couple of cool things. You had a couple of interesting things to say. All right, this video's gone on for way too long. Holy crap, I can really waste people's time. Sorry about that. God bless. I'll see you for the next one. Peace.